So first, let's understand why and how panic attacks happen. And as you would have heard me often say, that you cannot treat a disorder without knowing its phenomenology. You cannot even diagnose a disorder properly without knowing the phenomena that's happening. And you can't treat a disorder also without knowing the phenomena that's happening. And I see so many people doing that. I'll tell you how one crucial mistake that a lot of people make with regards to panic attacks, that that it's unfortunate that we don't understand the phenomena of how it works properly before starting to treat it. So let's understand that first. So what happens is that first thing that happens in a panic attack is that there are certain physiological symptoms, and those physiological symptoms are misinterpreted by by the mind, because these can be absolutely normal bodily sensations, such as your racing heart and shortness of breath and etc. These are things that happen to us on a daily basis. Let's say when we run and catch a catch a metro, or when we take flight of stairs in a hurry. But when they happen at the time of a panic attack, we misinterpret them to be something very dangerous, very harmful, very serious. And why we need to do this, that when we are psychoeducating, this is the first point of attack, in the sense that first point that you need to work with as a therapist. This triggers the fight or flight response, really, this misinterpretation, because then the amygdala has understood that we are in danger and I need to activate the survival mode. So it triggers the fight or flight response, and that leads to more physiological symptoms, that leads to catastrophic interpretations. If I don't leave this situation, then something very terrible is going to happen. And it also leads to hypervigilance, us being very focused on, okay, what is happening now, how hard is my heart beating right now, right? And then what happens, if we all pause for just 5 seconds, let's do that right now. Let's pause for 5 seconds and focus on your breath and see what happens. Okay. Now, did you all experience more labored breathing when you started to focus on your breath? Show of hands, did you? You can give me a thumbs up. Did you experience a more labored breathing when you focused on your breath? That's what normally happens during hypervigilance, right? Or if I was to tell you that, okay, now let's be quiet and focus on the fan or the AC running in the background for you, then automatically that sound will start appearing louder, whereas till now you weren't even focusing on it. So that's what happens with hypervigilance. And then when you're anxious, you can unraise your hand now. So when you are anxious about the symptoms, and then that anxiety leads to hypervigilance, then that hypervigilance leads to more symptoms. You see how it's a vicious feedback loop that keeps on going on. And over time we develop avoidance behaviors. And what do those avoidance behaviors do? They lead to those avoidance behaviors lead us to lead to reinforcement of anxiety, and we keep becoming more and more anxious in more and more situations. Another thing that, let me see if we've covered it in the next slide, or I'll mention. Okay, another thing that I'll mention here is that another thing that, okay, it's mentioned here, is safety seeking behaviors, right? So you look at the first box that says behavioral features. One is the agoraphobic avoidance. What is the agoraphobic avoidance? Avoidance of places where escape is not possible, right? Not going out of the house, not locking the washroom door when you're going, taking a friend when you're going somewhere. Then there is interoceptive avoidance, meaning avoidance of physiological sensations. So people who have a panic disorder, for instance, may not drink coffee because of how it might make them feel, or may not be able to tolerate heat or discomfort, as the patient also in question, because they want to avoid those physiological sensations as they seem scary for them. Then safety seeking behaviors. These are also a very important point to be included in psychoeducation. Safety seeking behaviors are those behaviors that make us feel all right. Right. So safety seeking would be, taking a pill at that time, or going and getting some fresh air, or drinking a glass of water, or even doing any other exercise. Like a lot of people, I'm sure you've also seen, promote that when you're having panic disorder, you can do some deep breathing, grounding, this and that. But at that time, I'll tell you how that safety seeking behavior may not be, advisable for the patient. And then there is experiential avoidance, avoidance of that same experience of having a panic attack, right? So avoidance of same similar situations in which the panic attack has happened. And cognitive avoidance, avoidance of the thought, or suppressing the thought that I will go crazy, or I will have a heart attack, or I will collapse. There may be catastrophic thinking. Something is really wrong with me. I'm going to collapse. I'm not physically fit. And or I may have the same. A lot of people with family history of certain diseases start associating it with those diseases. Some people who have had a prior history of the same, of some physical illness, like a patient of mine developed panic disorder after he recovered from COVID, a year after he recovered from COVID. And he felt, once he felt breathless while climbing the stairs, which is very natural for all of us. And he was wearing a mask and climbing the stairs. And he associated, because he misinterpreted those symptoms, he associated it with that, this COVID and the recovery from COVID has somehow taken a toll on my respiratory system, and now this is the problem that I'm having. Overestimation of threat, again the same example, right? Because panic attacks, as dramatic as they look and feel, so dramatic that people will, so intense, rather that people will walk into an emergency room saying I am having a heart attack. But what is the threat level? Zero. Yes, it's absolutely harmless, a panic attack. There is attentional bias towards threat, so which is hypervigilance, which makes you at that time, because when once you go in survival mode, your brain has this job of protecting you, and in order to do that, it has to be really active. You see those bodyguards that are standing, behind these, big shots, presidents and prime ministers, and how they are constantly looking here, there, right? That is what our amygdala becomes at the time of a panic attack. It's constantly looking and scanning for any threats. And what will happen if we constantly scan for threats? What do you think happens then?
Fatigue.
Yeah,
Fatigue. Get tired.
fatigue. We get tired. Yeah, and we may, fun is we, it leads to fatigue, and then we may find something also, because it's we are misinterpreting things, right? So if we are constantly being hyper vigilant for something, there is confirmation bias also. We might find things that again make us uncomfortable, that again start the whole vicious loop of panic. Then the emotional features like negative affectivity, or the tendency to experience an array of negative emotions across a variety of situations. You will soon see in our case also how in a variety of situations patient is feeling the same emotion. It's actually a very good case. Intense fear or terror, feeling of losing control, fear of dying, fear of going crazy, or sense of impending doom. Physical features we all know, from heartbeat to shortness of breath to dizziness, lightheadedness, tingling, trembling, hot, cold flushes, all of those.